Hey guys, gals, if they're in here, what's up? I am Sober Chef Eric, as you know, since this is my channel. And this guy right over here, you might recognize him, Bearded Motivation Dave. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Absolutely, man.
So, for those who don't know, E-Rock was claiming first, but he has to work tomorrow, so he wished us some good luck. And we got one of my lovely moderators, Dagan's in here.
What up, Dagan?
And for those that don't know, a couple weeks ago on the 23rd, I had 10 years of being sober. Whoop, whoop.
That's awesome, dude.
And how long do you got now, Dave?
8, I think.
That's freaking awesome. Yeah, I'm not high tech enough to have sound effects.
Did you hear it though?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. I love it.
Awesome.
So for those that are watching, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in there and I'll put them up on screen if you got questions for Dave or myself. And what made you decide that it was time for you to get sober?
So basically it was like one night we were just, we got good grades. We were going to college. I was doing good in CNC. She was doing really good at her medical assistant. I just got on the dean list. She just got on the dean list. We were partying it up. Next thing you know, the leader of of Honey Vice, Jack Daniels, was gone, and we went to a bar, and Patron shot after Patron shot. My wife tried keeping up. She got super, super, super drunk, and God, freaking living this thing is so horrible. Like, when she was drunk, she was on the ground, and my buddy's girl came up to me and was like, "Hey, Dave, your wife is really drunk. You need to bring her home." And I was like, "All right, yeah, no problem." So I took a shot quick, did a backer, went to go grab her, and she pukes as I'm walking over, right all over the floor. I'm like, "Oh man!" So then me and the bouncer pick her up because she's like dead weight. And when we bring her outside, the bouncer, I thought, had her head, but he didn't. So when we moved her to put her in the car, her head like slammed in the A-pillar, right? So she had like this mark going all the way down her side of her face. So we get her in the car, and we're driving the car down, and we get to the turn lane down the street, and we're at a stoplight, and we're turning left, and all of a sudden she just woke up and just started flipping out on me. And I put my hand over like to try to block all of whatever she was doing. I didn't know what was going on. I was just trying to like not get hit, right? All of a sudden she bites my thumb. And I'm like trying to pull my hand out of her mouth. Well, somebody kitty corner from us thought that I was beating the crap out of her. So we get home. I try to get her out of the car. Every time I would get her out on the ground, she would fall and hit her head. I'm like, man, I'm just sitting here. I'm like thinking, like, gosh, I should just deadlift her, like, you know what I mean, like put her over my shoulder and bring her in the house because she's just not moving. So I went to go grab her, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I look down the street, and it's a cop. And I'm like, "Oh, my wife and I just got home. We were just having some fun. She's completely annihilated, right?" So make a long story short, she ended up in the hospital. I ended up in jail because they thought I was beating her up. Her face had like this huge bruise on it. And I was in jail. I went to jail for like the whole weekend. Got out on like a Monday night at like 8, 9 o'clock at night at Central time. So like it was probably 10 p.m. Eastern. And after I left, I couldn't go there. I couldn't go home. I couldn't see my kids. I called, I guess my wife, she had a brain bleed in her head from hitting her head on the ground so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So she was in the hospital for like 3 or 4 days. And I told her, I said, "Look, I'll quit with you, but you need to quit drinking. Like, this needs to stop. Like, we can't do it anymore. I'm ready. I'll quit with you." So we both quit. And I think I had like maybe one beer when I got out of jail, and then like a half of one at my buddy's house I was staying at when I got out. And then I just stopped. I was like, you know what? It doesn't even taste good. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then she quit. She had her mom dump out every single bit of alcohol we had in the house, and we just stopped. But it was such a crazy, traumatic time to see or to know that she was in the hospital with brain bleed. I couldn't do anything about it because I was stuck in a stupid metal cage. You know what I mean? I was just going crazy. But I had been talking about quitting drinking for a long time. And the problem was I was a functioning alcoholic. Like I knew when to say when, I knew when to do what.
Yeah.
Constantly drinking. I mean, if somebody said stay up longer, I'd be like, no, I'm going to bed. I got to work in the morning. You know what I mean? Like 1 o'clock was my limit. If it was past 1, I was worthless the next day. But it just gradually, like I got better and better and better at it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it just became one of those things where it was so expensive, right? So there was all these things I had to gain from quitting. I got to repair my relationship with my wife. For the best we've ever been. The last 8 years have been freaking amazing, man.
That's awesome.
Life, when you don't drink, you all of a sudden end up having money. Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, you actually have a couple bucks to buy other things. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. When you're not dropping a couple bills at the bar every
Right.
weekend,
And it was like $250, $300. We would
yeah.
get platters of Patron, man. Like they would fill the whole platter full of Patron for us, and it was just all the time, you know.
Yeah.
So
No,
now I don't even care other people drink in front of me all the time. Now I just have a soda or a rock star or whatever they have there, you know what I mean? But it doesn't even bother me anymore. I'm to the point now where I'm just done.
yeah.
So yeah,
I'm the same way. It doesn't bother me if people drink around me, and
I almost prefer it so I can see it and know why I stopped. Right. So you get to like see the way they act and stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, these guys.
Well, when I was working security at concerts, you know, I would get groped by the drunk females, sometimes the males, you know,
Hey, you know,
it happens. But, I would be like, so that's what I used to look like every single concert I went to.
right?
Okay. All right. Yeah. I was that guy. Yeah.
Exactly.
But, I was normally a pretty festive drunk, and I was definitely a highly functioning alcoholic. I never got fired or written up because of my drinking. Well, in restaurants, you drink on the job because it's part of the culture. But, when I was working like Caterpillar or Whole Foods, I wasn't drinking on the job.
Right.
Might be really hungover, but,
Oh, that was the way it was back then when I worked in automotive repair. I was a manager. We would get so wasted the night before, come in, drink rock stars, Red Bulls, whatever it took to keep going. And self-mutilation, there was no excuse for it. And everybody knew that was my motto. Like, if you get drunk, you come to work, we figure it out. You know what I mean? You sweat it out, whatever you got to do, but
yeah. When it's, and I know you were in the Army, I was in the Army Reserves. It was part of the culture, at my reserve meetings. We had Oklahoma State cops, Stillwater cops, State Patrol, Enid, Tulsa Police. And so starting about a week and a half before drill, if they caught underage kids, and back then, you just they'd give you a talking to, and they'd either make you pour it out or confiscate it. Well, they would just confiscate and then bring it to reserves. And then as soon as we had last formation, it was time to crack them and get after it,
Well, and they said always too, like I was in the airborne, and they were always like, we're the healthiest drunks in the world, is what they told us we were. Yeah, because we would drink so much all the time in the military. And then when I got out, it got even worse.
Yeah,
it got even worse when I got out. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I got pretty lucky because I got pulled over, I don't know how many times, when I'd been drinking and driving, but things were different back then. They would follow me home. They'd give me a ride home. And so, nowadays I got, like you, I got very good at drinking.
Yeah.
And I knew when I had enough, and I would stagger my happy ass home or call a cab, or, you know, on the rare occasion get stupid and actually drive.
See, I was a dumbass. I drove every time. I was stupid. I was dumb. That's the most stupidest thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
Looking
Yeah.
back, I'm like, God, you were an idiot. Like, I didn't get caught ever, and I don't know why. I should have. You know what I mean? Like, I would have quit sooner, but man, just so lucky that I didn't. Because if I would have, that
Oh yeah, DUI will jack up your life,
for a
man,
long time.
financially, and
Yeah.
you know, and then you need what is the SR22 for your insurance if you get your license back, or when you get your license back. You got to pay to get one of the breathalyzers in your car, which is a couple $100 a month. And
Yeah, I had a buddy that had that in his car. And then one night it was my buddy's bachelor party weekend. We went, he came with, right? And he drank, and we were drinking all night, and he woke up the next morning and he went to go start his car, and he couldn't start his car. He was stuck there for like, I think 4 or 5 hours after to try to get his car started. And he's like, come on, man, blow into this. I'm like, I'm not blowing into that thing. No, your mouth's been around that thing like nonstop. No, I'm not doing it. Come on, bro. I'm like, dude, I guarantee you I'll blow higher than you're blowing right now. I bet
well,
you know,
and,
like,
and now they got those things where they read off your DNA, so you can't have a stranger blow into it for you, or your best friend.
right.
You know.
I was like, there's no way I'm doing that, bro.
Yeah.
Well, there was a camera. There was a camera on it too, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think he had a camera on it. He might have. I don't remember if they had it back then, but I come in and just hear blowing. Even what's up? What's going on, cousin?
But yeah, I mean, you know, puking out the side of the car window when I'm driving, and
That was a no, man. That was wasting alcohol in my life.
yeah,
Never.
well,
it was like a D's motto. My dad was an alcoholic. My uncle's an alcoholic. Like, that was another reason why I didn't want to do it anymore, right? Like, the whole family, that's what they do. They drink all the time. I watched my uncle slam a case of whatever Keystone or whatever it is that's on a decent sale for him.
yeah.
Every time I go over there, he'll drink the whole case, and I'm like,
yeah, we used to have
like,
case races.
Like, I'm like, holy crap. You know what I mean? Like, wow. So yeah, pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell drinking stories all night long.
Right?
But,
the good
now,
old days.
I know for the last couple of years you've been really into going to the gym. Did you start doing that early in your recovery, or to help out?
So I started to a little bit. The first thing I did was I kind of helped my wife. I was really worried about her when she first stopped. So whatever I could do to make it easier on her was what I did. I was home a lot more. If she needed me to be around, I was around. If she felt like she was off, I would stay home. You know what I mean? Just whatever I could do to help her stay sober was what I was really worried about, because I'm a pretty stubborn person. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, stuff's hard sometimes, like quitting smoking. I smoke an e-cig now because it tastes good. And I get bored, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, that's the worst thing I do, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Like, I still, I mean, I do like CBD for pain, and you know what I mean? But I'm not doing it to abuse it or anything, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I stopped taking Tylenol. I was on opiates for a little while, but that was after my back surgery. And then I threw away like half the bottle, so I wouldn't keep doing them, because I heard horror stories from all my buddies that were in the military. And I'm like, I'm not getting, no, that's not happening.
I have quite a few friends that were hooked on opiates or heroin, you know, because they started, you know, because of a sports injury or whatever, a car wreck. And, you know, next thing you know, they can't get the scripts anymore. And so then they're spending a lot on the street. What's up, Chad? And,
Plum
you know,
Locos in the house.
Then they, you know, switch over to heroin because it's a lot cheaper and easier to get.
Right.
You know, and I've lost over 20 friends due to liver issues due to overdoses, due to suicides.
It's just crazy, man.
Yeah. So
It's a shame too, because I bet you those people were really awesome too. Just got into a bad situation they couldn't get out of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, myself, I started self-medicating when I was 10, 11 years old after I got molested. And the only time I didn't hate myself and the only time, that I liked myself was when I was drinking or using, and I went undiagnosed for over 30 years. And I didn't used to think myself as an alcoholic. I was like, I'm just a lush.
The famous lush.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, man, people sit there and they're like, oh man, I'm not an alcoholic. And I'm like, all right, well, don't drink. And then they're like, yeah, but they got this really good thing going on at the bar. And I'm like, well, I thought you weren't an alcoholic. Like, what do you mean? Like, you are or you aren't? Like, you don't have to tell me, dude. Like, do your thing. But yeah. Yeah, the steroids, dude. And I don't think it's steroids per se. I bet you it's like everything that they took with it. You know what I mean? Killed their kidneys or whatever, what I mean? But yeah, I know there's a couple people that are in the hospital. Dude, there's been bodybuilders dying left and right from all the stuff they're taking. It's crazy. This has been the worst year for bodybuilders. I've never seen somebody die in a year. It's super scary. I mean, I was thinking about maybe doing like a growth hormone because I was just like, maybe I can get a little bigger, you know what I mean? Like, and then I was like, no. Like, if I do that and something happens to me, man, I wouldn't. No.
Well, in Chad, especially, in the wrestling industry in the late 80s, early 90s, Vince McMahon can say all he wants, but if you weren't huge and ripped or, 7 foot tall, you weren't getting any airtime.
Yep.
And I mean, look at all the tragedies, from, steroid and opioid abuse, from all their multiple injuries. And, I mean, it's
true, man. Hulk Hogan, that dude has fake hips. His knees are all bad. Dropping those legs all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
40 wrestlers died in 2003. Yeah, it was crazy.
Super
crazy. And they don't even say all the people's names. Like, they only say the big stars, right? But a lot of the ones trying to come up, they're the ones that are passing away too, trying to get there, So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sad how many people,
it really is, man. Totally 100% agree.
It. And if anybody's out there struggling with anything, mental health, substance abuse, anything like that, reach out to somebody.
Yeah. Don't ever hesitate to hit me up on the DMs or anything on Instagram.
Same here. I would much rather somebody reach out to somebody and get some help.
For sure.
And be able to be around than another tragedy,
Yeah, for absolutely. Couldn't say it enough, man. Like, people just need to understand that they're worth it, even if they don't think it at the time. You know what I mean? Because, like, there's other things that I suffer from. Like, people don't know that I suffer from depression. People don't know that I suffer from, like, anxiety. Like, I have major social anxiety. Would you ever guess that? Nobody would ever guess that.
Yeah.
But I'm comfortable here. You know what I mean? So I can talk and hang out with people and do whatever here. It's when I get into a crowd. Then, like when I go into a store, I get all, like, small and claustrophobic. And I'm like, people get close to me and I'm like, babe, I'm going to punch him. He needs to move. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, just like, can we walk a little farther? Maybe go to the next one over here. So if I forget to take my meds or something like that, I'm like somebody I don't even know. It's just crazy. So it's like, I have to, though. Like, if I don't take it, if I don't take my anxiety medicine, my chest feels like it's going to come out of my heart is going to come out of my chest is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And it's all the time. It doesn't stop. And I don't know why. I'm like, why is this? And the doctor was like, it just happens. Like, some people that's just what happens as they get older. And I'm like, you just call me old, bro? And he's like, yeah, I did.
I never knew I had social anxiety until I got sober. And I was my brother was having a barbecue in the cul-de-sac he lived in, and I was staying with them after I got out of the psych ward. And so I was running the grill for him and everything was good. And then once I was done cooking, I just started crawling out of my skin. And, when I went and saw my doctor that next week, because I was seeing the psychiatrist every week at that point, really fresh into my recovery. And I told him about it, and he's like, "Oh, you got anxiety." He's like, "You've never noticed it before?" And I was like, "Well, every time I've been in a social situation since I was a kid, I was smoking weed or I was drinking or I was mushrooms or
And
LSD
I
or whatever."
honestly think about it though. You were always messed up when you were partying. So you didn't even know if you had anxiety or not because you were so
Yeah,
messed up. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
yeah, you
Exactly.
wouldn't know. And I was such a social butterfly back then. You know what I mean? Like I was always around people, like always doing stuff. And yeah, there were people I knew. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a different thing too. If I'm comfortable with you and I know who you are and I'm hanging out with more than 5 people, it's okay. But if I don't know one person, it's over. Like I
Yeah.
can't do it. Like my daughter came over, her and her boyfriend. I know her boyfriend really well, right? And uh they brought 2 friends over. And the whole time I had so much anxiety because I don't know why. Like I'm like, these guys are cool, they're just chilling, you know what I mean? Why am I freaking out, right? And it wasn't them, it was just me thinking like, oh my God, what are they, you know what I mean? Like, what if they do something to my fire? Or what if they, you know what I mean? Like it's just like all these stupid thoughts coming to my head, and I'm like, I don't trust them, I don't know who they are. My daughter's like, it's fine, that's okay. And I'm like, I know it's okay, I'm just saying, like, what
Yeah.
were you guys doing gone for half an hour? Jesus Christ, you're supposed to be back here hanging out with me and you're out. Like I didn't know what happened to you, like maybe, it's just stupid. I don't know, like. And then you
Yeah.
just sit there and you think, is something wrong with me for feeling like this? Like what is wrong with me? Like nothing's wrong with you, that's just what happens.
Yeah. It's just a condition. And I get that because, like, last Saturday, we had my yearly party at my parents'. This is the 9th year in a row that we've done it, where I have people that are really close to me in my recovery, and one of my cousins comes, and it was 15 people, plus mom, dad, and I. And these people I all know very, very well. I know and love all these people, which is why I invited them.
Right.
But I'm still just like, before the party, I'm hitting my vape like crazy. And, it's
And
like,
that doesn't help either because that makes it go faster. Your heart, then you're like, is my heart okay? Like, you know what I mean? Then you're like, did I smoke too much? Here, I better smoke it some more just to make sure.
yeah,
Then you're wigging yourself out more. Yeah, yeah. It's just
yeah. And
it's
then,
never
during
ending.
the party, I'm like, okay, everybody's been here an hour. When are they going to start leaving?
Right? You're like an
And I don't
hour.
want to be a bad host, and then, after 2.5 hours, people started leaving. And then I was just emotionally spent for a couple days,
Yeah. And I still get like I messed up my meds this week and I just didn't take them for like 5 days. And I woke up on Monday and I didn't want to work and I was crabby and I was angry and I just didn't want to do anything. And I just kept working and I was yelling at my screen as I was, you know what I mean? Like, and my wife walks up to me and she goes, "Did you forget to take your crazy pill?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I forgot to take." And that's what we call it. We joke around about it, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been on them now for a long time. And I'm like, "Yeah, how could you tell?" And she's like, either A, you haven't been to the gym yet, or B, you didn't take your meds. And I'm like,
Or
yeah,
both.
or both, yeah. And it was both. So I mean, it was tough. But
Yeah.
I just gotta keep taking it. You know what I mean? You just gotta do it. But
I lay out all my meds for the week, once a week. And uh, I didn't know until last week when I was laying them all out that I only had one of my Abilify because I was supposed to get a 30-day supply, and, didn't have it. And I saw the psychiatrist including today, the last 3 weeks I've been seeing him because we've been doing some pretty big med changes. And so they took me off 2 because I was on 6 different psych meds. And I knew that was too many, but I also trust the psychiatrist. You know, they went to
Right.
school for many years to learn all this stuff. And so now after today, I'm down to 3. So, and they upped my Latuda, which I was on before, and it worked really well for me. And then when I got this new insurance, Kaiser's like, no, we won't cover it. And so I looked into it, and it was like 600 something, $1,100 a month. And I'm like, I can't afford that. You know,
Yeah, right.
they put me on other stuff, and it just didn't do the trick. I was still, I get auditory hallucinations, and I get paranoia really bad. And then that ramps up my anxiety, which decreases my sleep, which, you know, it's a vicious cycle. You don't get enough sleep because your mood disorders are acting up, and
Yep.
then your mood disorders act up because you're not getting enough sleep. And, you know, but I'm excited now that I'm back on Latuda, and they just upped it. So
That's good, man. I'm
hopefully
glad.
I'll start feeling productive again. And if anybody in the chat has an idea for my next cooking tutorial, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to make. So if there's anything you want to learn how to cook, throw it at me and I'll make it.
Yeah, for sure.
But since you are wearing a Chesapeake hat, I know they got a deal going on. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Tonight till midnight, Barber 10 will save you 20% off CBG products. So Chesapeake Beard Co. right now running a special. Barber 10, 20%. That's huge for Gary because he never does that. So, but I figured I'd wear the hat, you know, because he's having a sale, show a little support for G. So,
oh yeah, G's been awesome.
yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah,
crispy chicken fingers.
Crispy chicken fingers. Okay, now I can do that, but I've got many different recipes. I can do Captain Crunch coated chicken fingers. I can do panko chicken fingers. I can do all kinds. So,
Bro, my wife made KFC bowls fresh.
nice.
They were so good. I was like, is there more? And she goes, no. And I'm like, oh, it's so sad, bro. I was like, maybe I should go to KFC and get another one. Like, it was that good.
Well, when I was talking to my neighbor when I got home from work today, she's not working due to an injury. And so she cooks a lot. And so she invites me to dinner with other neighbors that we have and everything. But that's just, you know, she knows my situation. So she's like, tonight I'm making mac and cheese covered with chili. Would you like some? And I'm like, I've never heard of that.
Is that
And
a
that sounds freaking
question?
amazing.
Yeah. Was it as amazing as it sounded?
Well, she didn't have it done. So as soon as I get done with this, I'm going to be running upstairs.
There you go.
But I love chili and I love mac and cheese. How can you go wrong putting
You
the two
can't.
together?
You
You
can't.
know?
It's like putting chili cheese on a hot dog
Yep.
or a brat. You know what I mean? It's just good. So, yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody in the chat have any questions for either one of us? But
What up, Aaron Rodgers?
hey, what's going on, Aaron?
Hey,
Good to see
Ron.
you, buddy.
Hey, Ron.
So what are some other things you like to do to kind of blow off stress? I know the gym's huge for you.
Gym is like, I would say the gym is about 90% of my anxiety and stress reliever I do. And this next week, today was my last day of work for like 9 days. So I just got a vacation. So I'm going to start getting my body used to waking up early, going to the gym, and I'm going to be full back at it again here, starting this week. So I just have to do it. I got to do it. I've been pushing it off for too long because of everything else that I got going on. Now that I kind of have a steady schedule and I'm kind of used to everything, now I think if I throw the gym in there in the morning, it'll be perfect to get everything else done during the day. And yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, you should be sorry, Aaron. It's with an A, not an E, bro.
Yeah, my running coach, I sprained my ankle at work last Friday. So I'm having to put a halt on the running for a little bit. But my running coach just ran the Boston Marathon in 3 hours and 14 minutes on the other day.
That's dope.
Yeah, he's a freaking stud. He and my best friend, they did the Pikes Peak Marathon where they run up to the top of Pikes Peak
Right.
and then they run back down. And to show you how tough it is, he does most of his marathons in less than 3.5 hours. That one took him a little over 7.
Yeah, so my aunt, she's a big Boston Marathon runner. She usually runs them all the time. And then my sister, when she lived in New York, she would go to Boston and run it with her. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Luckily, neither of them were there during that bombing. So that was like the one year they didn't go. Crazy, I know, but for some reason they just didn't go. So
Yeah, and both the New York and the Boston, you actually have to qualify for them. You can't just sign up, pay your money, and do it. You have to have recorded times and X amount of marathons that season.
Yeah, they were running tons. She was running tons of different ones. It was crazy. I couldn't believe how many she was doing. I'm like, you really do this all the time? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that's awesome, Denise. Like, I was like, that's so cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Michael, he actually had to change my tattoo appointment because he's an amazing artist. And I had an appointment with him, and he's like, "Hey, I just found out I got into the New York Marathon. Uh, can I change your date?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
Like, her.
So, but yeah, he's a freaking stud. He and my best friend and another guy, not this summer, but the summer before, they went out to the Grand Canyon, and 2 of them did rim to rim, and Michael did rim to rim to rim.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't run. I mean, I walk fast, but that's about like if I jolt my back, it's no bueno. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Like sometimes when I get up, I gotta like stop, grab something, hold on until it like goes away, and then I kind of move my leg a little bit, and then my hip will kind of like free up, and then I can walk. And that's a lot of people don't understand. Like my depression didn't come because my life sucks. My depression comes because I have so much pain from the military from when I landed wrong in airborne, right?
Mhm.
So like when I landed wrong, the pain was whatever. I was younger, it was fine. I bounced back. It hurt, but I was like, I've been punched in the face, you know what I mean? Kicked and all that kind of stuff. You've been in so many fights, whatever.
Yeah.
No big deal. It'll go away. It just continually got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until I was with a cane. And I had a cane for like a year, maybe 6 months, something like that. Till the VA finally got me in for a surgery, and I had to drive all the way from Orlando to Gainesville. So I was like 2.5 hours just to get a surgery done. And now it's starting to hurt again, but I stopped doing like squats, putting pressure on my back, that kind of stuff. But that's where I get the depression from. If I wake up and I have pain, it's like, gosh, is this really worth it? Getting out of bed again just to hurt all day long? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey man, see you later, brother. Have a good night.
Thanks for stopping in, Aaron.
Yeah, buddy. But that's like the biggest thing too, right? Is like it can happen from it's almost like a PTSD thing with pain. Like it just brings it back, and then you think about that day, and then you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, can't believe we were that stupid. But somebody rigged my gun. So what happened was I jumped out of the airplane, I dropped my rucksack, the rucksack flies down. So it was a night jump, right? As soon as you jump, you gain your control. As soon as you know your canopy's up, you drop your rucksack, and then you go to drop your weapon. Well, when I went to drop my weapon, whoever rigged my weapon clasped the clasp, but it wasn't supposed to be clasped. So I went to drop it, and it wouldn't drop on the wire or the rope that I had between my legs from the rucksack, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying, and and all of a sudden I was like, oh, you're in the air. So I look up, and I see the tree line, like looking right there, like it's right there. I can see the top, and I'm below it already, right? So I freak out. I grab my canopy, and I just pull as hard as I can to my chest. Pull as hard as I can to the left, and I just boom, I hit. But I have my legs together, you know what I mean? I did everything right, but my legs, everything from my hips down went numb. I couldn't feel it. So I had to pat my legs on both sides to make sure I didn't break anything, move my feet around so I could see them move. And I just got up, threw my stuff in my ruck, and I just ran back to, you know what I mean? I was like, what am I going to do? Just sit here and be like, meh, and then with all these guys around that think I'm a badass? No, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to go to the freaking, the mess hall, and we're going to have like 2 pitchers of beer, and I'm going to pass out. That's what's going to happen.
Pride and ego got you back.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it too. But I mean, that's really what happens is like every time the pain hurts, that's when the depression gets worse. But and man, I almost lost my house. We almost didn't have a place to live. It was such a scary time that it just brings everything back when it hurts. And I'm just like, ah. But now I just kind of like try to forget. I try to shake it off when I get that feeling. But I don't really get it. I would say maybe I get it twice a month where I'll start thinking about it. But I just try to like keep my mind off it. I'll do something around the garage, or I'll do something in my because there's always stuff to do in the studio, like videos to make or editing to do or clean up my office and my studio. You know what I mean? There's always something to do in here. So just try to do something to keep my mind off it. But
I deal with chronic pain as well because I was working at a concert and I ended up getting knocked down and trampled by 20 people. So I have 3 bulging discs in my neck. So, and then the hereditary bad back and bad ankles from wrestling and soccer and
I played football. I did all the sports, hockey, baseball, power volleyball, only in the sand. People that play volleyball on a court is not playing real volleyball. I'll watch some college inside volleyball. I ain't telling you why, but I will.
Booty shorts.
Maybe. I don't know. Yogurt pants. I don't. Those things. Did I say? Yeah, I did. I said that. That was me.
I actually got in trouble in college one time because I was in a referee class, and part of the class I had to be a linesman for one of my college girls volleyball games. And, I'm 19 years old, a lot of beautiful, beautiful women out there. And, there was a few times where, everybody started looking at me and I'm like, in. And everybody starts booing me. And I'm like,
Yes, yogurt pants. That's because they're scrumdiddlyumptious, man. Come on.
But yeah, I get it. But for my chronic pain, I don't take opioids or anything like that. I have a friend of mine. He actually shares the same sober date as me, just he's a year behind. He has a Twisted Spoke Apothecary where they make their own CBD and everything.
Oh,
so
cool.
He has some CBD pain relief cream that I use that is just, and it's I've been putting it on my ankle since I injured it, and I got in, let me see, today 20,048 steps, and that's with a sprained ankle.
That's crazy.
It doesn't even hurt.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, his stuff is pretty darn good.
That was probably me.
Yeah. And do we have any other questions beside yogurt pants?
Is that a real question even? So yeah, like the biggest thing that's been keeping me around, like what I've been busy with, is like trying to get everything like updated with the YouTube stuff, like the eCam I started using different microphone setup with Shure, and I got this Stream Deck now, and I got to get the soundboard. Once I get that, then everything will kind of work together. You know what I mean? So there's just a lot of stuff that I'm kind of trying to put together. But do you know how much a soundboards cost? It's stupid. It's unbelievable. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm gonna have to save up for that for about 6 months. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Chad, I have no idea why Dracula did not want to attend a business meeting. And I love dad jokes, so bring it on. So, and I love dad jokes, but I'm also a stand-up comedy snob because he's afraid of stakeholders. Nice. Well, for a few years, I worked at the #4 comedy club in the country. And I started out as a door guy and then barback, bartender, manager. And we had the biggest and best acts come through there. So when it comes to stand up, I love it, but I'm a snob.
He's like, I've seen so many that if you're not good, boo.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some of them, the comedians, I love the person themselves, but their stand up, I mean, I can get up and tell dick jokes for 30 minutes and get some laughs.
Right.
And I'm not a comedian.
Right.
It's
like, come on, original. Let's go.
Yeah, Chad, it was. I mean, plus most of the comedians would hang out with the staff afterwards. So, back in the day, I rolled joints and smoked joints with Tommy Chong, Dave Chappelle, Jim Brewer. I mean, had
I mean, if you didn't smoke, I mean, I think you kind of maybe have to because it's Dave Chappelle, like, right? Like, what do you do?
Well, and Dave used to love coming through Denver because there's a really good skate park there, and he's a huge skater. So he would come into town just to skate, and he would stop in and he'd be like, "Hey, man, can I get 10 minutes? I'm going to be on Letterman. I want to do my set." How are you going to tell Dave Chappelle no?
Yeah, right? Like, no, dude, you can't, bro. Like, no. Get out. I would be like, can you do 20? That's what I'd say. Like, I just want to laugh for 20 minutes. Can you be up there the whole 20 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Great guy.
The only guy that will never get canceled is Dave Chappelle for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, we had one time he came through with Neil Brennan, who was the co-writer of Half Baked.
Yeah, that was good.
And they both wrote that when they were like 17 years old. And
I love the part where it's like, "You'll be back," as Mary Jane goes in the water.
Well, I was like, so there was so many cameos. I'm like, did Dave smoke out with all those guys? And he was like, yeah. He's like, the only one he had a tough time hanging with Tommy Chong. I'm like, what about Snoop? He's like, smoke Snoop under the table.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. And Snoop, really nice guy. I got to meet him on 420. I was working one of his concerts, and they put me on his green room door. And so he just got through judging the Cannabis Cup and before he was even there, somebody had put a pile of weed on his table. And so he gets there, I open the door for him, and at the time my goatee was about down to here. And he's like, "Nice goatee, nephew." I'm like, "Thanks, Snoop."
That's awesome. You should have been like, "For shizzle." He probably would have laughed at you and did one of those.
Well, one time at the comedy club, we had a bunch of Bronco players come in, when we had Urban Acts, and one of the guys that was working with me at the door, seating everybody, he's like, "Hey, I know who all those guys are too." And I'm like, "I do too, Wu-Tang." And Terrell Davis just started laughing his ass off, and but
TD.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the comedy club, it was a great place to work.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, man.
What's some of the coolest jobs you've ever had?
So I knew a lot of people growing up. I used to hang out at Tropics in downtown Minneapolis. So I would hang out with like Eric James. He was like a big disc jockey out here. Tony Fly, went to his house, watched him burn chicken for me. And he was like, "Oh man, I just burnt all the chicken." He was hired in hell. He's like, "Oh man, I just burnt all the chicken." And I'm like, "Do you have barbecue sauce?" And he goes, "I do." I'm like, "Let's make barbecue chicken, man. A little char is good. It'll taste good." And he's like, "That's genius." And he like mixed it together and he's like, "Dave, you saved the day, bro." So I met him, some Vikings. I mean, I've met Kurt Hennig, a lot of wrestlers and stuff like that. But I mean, it was the coolest job I think I ever had growing up was probably the nightclub. Like that was really cool. It was a different time, obviously. But back then, man, I seen some stuff that was so cool. It was like a whole nother, like, sometimes you felt like you were in a movie, just seeing the stuff that you would see at a nightclub. You're like,
Yeah.
is that happening right now? Like, I would be like, I'd tap my buddy. I work security there, and I tap my buddy, and I'm like, dude, is that happening right now? Like, do you see this over here? And he's like, he looks and he's like, yeah, no, that's happening right now. I'm like, that's hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, holy crap, that's awesome. So yeah, no.
Yeah. I worked nightclubs, bars, working in a bar in Vegas. I saw probably the craziest stuff.
NSYNC, remember Justin Timberlake?
Mm-hmm.
Justin Timberlake, Joey Fatone, who was that? Lance Bass, and I forget Christian or something. I don't remember the fourth guy, but he had the really weird glasses with the dreads or whatever. But I was their bodyguards for a night. It was me and like two of my buddies that were bodyguard or like bouncers at the club, and then his three big bouncers. Like the dudes were just big, right?
Oh yeah.
And we're standing there, and I kid you not, bro. So all of a sudden, Justin Timberlake is dancing in the middle. He's talking to me. He's like, bro, look at my eyes. And I look at his eyes, and his pupils are the size of his freaking like eyeballs. Like he was rolling his nuts off. And I'm like, dang, bro, you get some good. And he's like, ha ha. And he just keeps dancing. Like he can't tell me, but he was like, ha ha. I was like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. And I met Black. I don't know if you guys remember who Black was. It was like three little black girls, and they sang too.
Yeah.
They like opened for NSYNC that night or whatever, but they came all and partied there. But we'd see a lot of cool music people that would come through all the time. Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was
You're in Minneapolis, I take it?
Yeah. Warehouse District. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That was where it was hopping. Back then it was a lot of fun to be there. Now
Yeah.
I don't know.
My brother was the GM of the Rock Bottom there when it first opened in Minneapolis, which was right by the performing complex or whatever, right by the stadium and all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he met a lot of people. All right, Chad, thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. Okay. Be safe. But yeah, I mean, I cut sushi in downtown Denver. I worked at the comedy club in downtown Denver.
See, that's so cool. I like that. That's awesome, man.
So I've served celebrities and athletes and movie stars and you name it.
I remember a lot of the wrestlers and stuff. I used to have, like, when I was doing automotive repair, like that was my main job, right? Like when I was a kid, I was like 18, I started bouncing, and then I went to automotive repair, and that's where the money started coming. I was like, ooh, money, yeah, all right, cool, let's do this. So I was selling my ass off, and I would always like help out. And you remember the Sheik, Adnan?
Mm-hmm.
Him and his son, he would come in all the time, and
he's got a hilarious IG.
Dude, that guy is so funny. Like him and his kid would come in and tell us stories all the time. He's like, bro, I'm like, it's pretty cool. Your dad's a pretty cool guy. And he's like, man, you don't come home after school and have him sitting on your lawn in his pink thong underwear with his freaking sun thing sitting underneath his chin so he can get a free tan. Why don't you go like everybody else, Dad, and pay for tanning? You have enough money. You know what I mean? But he doesn't want to spend it. Like,
yeah, he was one of the biggest stars in his heyday.
Yeah, he was, dude. And his hands, I have huge hands. His hand wrapped around my hand. I'm like, how is this happening right now? It's like crazy. It was crazy.
Well, the sushi joint I worked at was really close to the Pepsi Center, where they would have concerts, Nuggets, Avalanche games, and all that. Well, the WWF came through there, and Big Show came in and sat down in front of me one time when I was cutting. And to say he's huge is an understatement. You know,
they don't look as big as they really are in person
on TV, because they're all huge.
Yeah, like even Mr. Perfect looked tiny on TV, but you saw him in person, the dude was humongous. Like the dude was jacked.
Yeah.
The 1-2-3 kid. I met the 1-2-3 kid at Kurt Hennig's house. That dude was huge, but he was the smallest guy out of the group of people he hung around with. So he looked small, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
Not.
Well, yeah, Big Show, he came in and he started ordering, and the cocktail waitress was like, "You want anything to drink?" He's like, "I want some milk." I'm like, "All right." So I ran in back and grabbed a gallon of milk, and I was like, "Hey, can you bring a glass?" He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it." Just grabs the gallon of milk. Like I would grab a beer can, and he knocked out like 12 rolls, a couple entrees, a few desserts.
A lot of people drink milk when they work out like that too. It helps them gain mass. It's like protein, so it's like all that calcium and everything. I guess people will drink it like crazy. Like I knew a guy that used to just drink milk and no protein. Like I'm like, and he would drink it right out of the thing. I'm like, how are you doing that? Like I could never do that.
Oh, I love milk.
I mean, I can have some milk like once in a great while, but I don't love it that much. Like it really isn't something I have to have, you know?
Before I started watching what I was eating, I'd go through a gallon of milk in 2, maybe 3 days.
My kid does that. My boy, he loves milk. I used to when I was a kid. Maybe that's why, because I drank too much when I was a kid, but I don't know. My son he's crazy about it. He loves it.
And how old is he now?
10.
10?
10-year-old, yeah.
Nice. I don't have any kids, but I got 2 nephews, 13, and on the 30th, the other one's gonna be 12. They're 18 months apart.
Yeah, I got 4 crazy kids. I got a 19, almost 20-year-old daughter. I got a 18, almost 19-year-old son. I got a 13-year-old, almost 14-year-old daughter, and then I have a 10-year-old, almost 11-year-old son. So, yeah, they're all cool. They have fun. They all hang out together. So it's pretty cool. I like it. I like watching them hang out the most. That's the coolest thing. But,
yeah. I know family's huge for you. So
super big, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, family's got to be number one. You know.
Well, God first, then family, right? But that's kind of what whatever you believe in is fine. But I'm just saying, like, I always try to make sure they understand too that there's something that did this, it wasn't just me that did this. Like, we're blessed to have each other, and you know what I mean? So something I really believe in. I was raised on powdered milk growing up. Oh.
I almost always have some powdered milk in my pantry, just that way if I feel like making something and I don't have milk and I need milk for a recipe,
Backup.
Yeah, exactly.
You ever had condensed milk? You ever put that in anything?
That's only good for desserts.
You do you don't use like heavy cream for that instead of that, but you use condensed milk?
I use heavy cream in recipes. But
I don't know if I trust milk in a can. That's my problem.
Well, condensed milk is sweetened and it's
preservative filled. Okay, I've never had it. That's why I'm like,
no, it's used in making desserts normally because it's sweet, and you would not want to drink condensed milk unless you really want a sugar high.
So is Yoo-hoo close to it? No, I'm just kidding. It's not even milk.
Yeah, Yoo-hoo. Sorry, Mo, but it's watered down chocolate milk.
It's actually just a chocolate drink. It's not even milk.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
I was like, that's not milk. Oh man.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm not big on Yoo-hoo is I didn't have it until I was like in my late teens. And chocolate milk I used to love. So
it was that Big Daddy where he's on the recreational, like hanging out at the kids' recess time, and he's like, you wacky tobacco, you wrapping the snappy? Good. Drink Yoo-hoo. Yoo-hoo's the
best. Well, if peeing your pants is cool, I'm Miles Davis.
I'm Miles Davis.
But all right. I like to keep it right around an hour. So what do you got coming up this week for us, Dave?
Tomorrow I'll have a review in the morning, and then we'll have a live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. The Hype. And then, we do that every week. And then for next week we'll have Beer Tip Tuesday, and then we'll also have another crazy video. I did a little something too, so I'm just working on editing that one, and then I got to do the Beer Tip Tuesday one yet. But I'll get crazy. Like all of a sudden I'll start doing some video in my bathroom and then I'll be like, "Ooh, let's do this one too." So then I'll do another one. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll be like, "Ah, might as well. I already got everything set up in here. I might as well do that too." So you just film it all and then later on you just cut things out and put them here or there. And then you know what I mean? So yeah, it's fun. I love doing content creation. It's so much fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, guys in the chat, I appreciate y'all stopping in. And if you haven't already, please hit the like button. It helps the channel out a lot.
It really does. A lot.
And I'm creeping up on 200 subscribers. So when I hit 200, I'll be doing a little giveaway of some tasty goodies that I make. So be on the lookout for that.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to shoot something this weekend, cooking tutorial. I don't know if I'll do the chicken strips this one. I kind of got an idea of maybe something to do, but I appreciate everybody spending some time with us, taking time out of your day.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Dave. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do because it can bring back, memories from those times.
But the biggest thing is I like bringing it up. The biggest thing is that I remember why I did it. You know what I mean? Why I quit.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. And remember, if anybody's out there struggling, reach out. I put all my contact info down below. Dave, you can reach him on IG, and I can attest that he responds to every message, so
on YouTube too. So yeah. I could get 100 messages. I still try to say hey or hi or thumbs up or give them a nut, I do something, but yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. Have a great night. And remember, life's too short to eat bad food.
So have Eric make you the food.